All right, so buckle up. We are going to go through our psychosexual development stages by Sigmund Freud. Again, things are going to get a little weird here, but hopefully I'll be able to explain clearly what he is focusing on here. Just as a review, we talked about their libido is focused on a different area of the body, and fixation is what happens, and it either has a fixation point that is overindulged or underindulged. If it's overindulged, there's an issue. If it's underindulged, there'll be an issue. But if it's successfully completed, the person is able to move on to the next stage and function as an adult later on. And so, anyway, let's talk about the first stage. The first stage is the oral stage. And the oral stage takes place from birth to roughly age 1. And this is where the infant derives pleasure from placing things in their mouth. And we have an infant in our house, and everything goes into her mouth. Her fingers, her socks, toys, you name it. That's how they discover things. That's how they learn to feel things. It's just what their natural reaction is. And the conflict occurs when parents try to wean the child away from that, maybe taking away the pacifier or trying to get them to feel things with their hands instead of with their mouth. And a lot of times in this situation, in the oral stage, when the infant derives pleasure from placing things in their mouth, the main task here of the parent eventually is to wean them away from that. However, if a parent is too stringent, meaning they're too strict on that, or if they're too loose on that, that can cause a problem. And later on, an adult that struggles in the oral stage, according to Freud, could have issues such as they would maybe chew on pens, they would start smoking, they would chew a lot of gum, or they would overeat. And that would be perhaps an example of a person who struggles with the oral stage. Now you might be like, how do I know if I struggle with that? I bite my nails. Am I messed up? Am I all crazy? You're not crazy. But what we're saying is, according to Freud, what he would have said is perhaps your parents did not, they kind of made you super, super, super dependent on you discovering things with your mouth. Or maybe they said, we're not going to let you do that. And that can potentially cause issues. The next stage is the anal stage. And this is ages 1 to 3. And this is roughly where potty training starts to happen. Usually around age 2, 2.5, potty training can happen, and the kid learns to control their bowel movements. This gives them a sense of control, where they're actually able to control things themselves. And so it kind of gives them a sense of control. And children sometimes find pleasure in holding in and letting go of their poop. Again, just kind of learning how that whole process happens. Now, this can lead to specific character traits when a person is older. If during the potty training stage they have positive experience, then they'll feel competent, and therefore they feel like they can accomplish things and they have a sense of control over whatever situation may be. However, if a parent is too strict in potty training, the child can have what they call an anal retentive personality. This means that they're orderly, they're stingy, they're rigid, they are not flexible. And so some people are like, you'll hear some people say, oh man, my mom was just so anal about this whole entire situation, meaning she was uptight or she was angry about it. Or man, that person's super anal, they just have all of their books in a particular order, their notes are a particular way. And so again, we're not saying that if you're orderly, that's a bad thing necessarily, but according to him, he would say that you potentially struggled in this stage of life. However, if a parent is too lenient and doesn't really care to try to train the kid potty training, maybe they're way less strict and just like, whenever they figure it out, they figure it out. The child can have an anal expulsive personality, meaning they're out of control, they're messy, they're impulsive, meaning they don't control themselves very well. And so that could lead to part of that as well. So that would be part of the anal stage. And so if they don't feel competent, then that can lead to the anal expulsive. If they feel like they are not in control, then that could also lead to anal retentive personality. The next stage is the phallic stage, ages 3 to 5, and this is the focus on the genitals. This is where boys and girls kind of learn that they are anatomically different than each other. This is where Um, Boys discover that they have a different body part than the girls do, and vice versa. And Freud proposed this in what he called the Oedipus complex. This is an old Greek story of when a boy ended up killing his dad because he wanted to marry his mom. Again, a Greek history story type thing. But what it was is it was showing that there was a complex there where the boy was in constant competition to his dad. And according to Freud, he said that the boy in this Oedipus complex develops a sexual attraction for his mother and hates his father, meaning he feels like in order to win his mom's affection, he has to get rid of the competition, which would be his father. This is called the Electra complex in girls, in which the roles are reversed, where the daughter would want to get rid of the mom in order to get the dad's affection and attention. Now, this complex causes anxiety in the child because in order to win that parent's affection, they must replace the powerful same-sex parent. So what starts to happen is the boy would actually start to act like the dad and try to, do all the things that the dad does, because feeling like if he does that, then the boy would be able to get the mom to like him because she likes the dad because of these personalities, the way he, work ethic or how he looks or whatever it could be. And what can happen is it leads to what he would say is castration anxiety. Now, castration is just basically where the male body part is cut off, literally. And for boys, there's concern that the fathers will castrate them for desiring their mothers. Like they'll find out and they will cut off their male part. The girls experience a castration complex when they realize that they do not have a male sex organ, and they blame their mother for not having one. And this would lead to what he would call penis envy. And this is a girl's desire to possess a male sex organ. However, hardly any modern psychologist would accept this as fact or anything like that. He did even refer to women and would talk about women having, or men having, womb envy, which is the unconscious desire for a male to be able to have a baby. Again, this is, like I said, where things got really, really weird and where most modern psychologists do not really readily accept any of these ideas from him. Now, in kids, you will see boys at a young age try to mimic their dad, maybe putting on like a tool belt or, trying to dress like them. That could lead into a little bit of this, but going as far as saying that castration anxiety and penis envy and womb envy, most modern psychologists would not hold to any of these things. Now, as far as the resolution of this stage, the resolution of this stage is found in the process of identification, which means they're adopting the values, behaviors, and social roles of the same-sex parent. So, the girl decides, okay, I'm going to dress like my mom. I'll, learn how to maybe, when I think of like dressing up like mom, or learning maybe making dinner, or the dad out mowing the lawn, and they kind of just start to adopt the same values as the same-sex parent. And if they're able to do that in the social roles, then they are able to conquer that. Now, Freud would say that these first three stages are the most critical. They get into what they call the latency stage, or the latent stage, which is basically ages 6 to 12. And this is where the sexual feelings are repressed. And generally, the child is narcissistic, meaning they are focused only on themselves and no one else. And they're also, during this time, focused on social and academic tasks. And so their libido, or their lifeblood, is not really focused on one particular area itself at all. It kind of goes all over the place. And kids don't really think about having these sexual feelings anymore. They're just kind of figuring out life and learning how to talk to people and learning how to add and multiply and those type of things. But they don't really have a libido or a life energy that is focused on one particular area. And then you go to the genital stage, which is age 13 until adulthood. You're basically thinking ahead, thinking to puberty, and this is where the libido is focused back on the genitals, and mainly because the child hits puberty and they start to have an attraction for other people. And they have an attraction for group activities, wanting to hang out with people, vocational planning, like what are you going to do for the rest of your life, and having intimate relationships. And this is where all of a sudden boys start liking girls and girls start liking boys. And your sexual impulses reappear, but they're no longer directed towards the parent, they're directed towards other people. And so at this point in time, everything used to be more personal when you go before these stages, but all of a sudden in the genital stage, it seems to become more group oriented and dealing with other people and perhaps having that libido go towards other individuals. And so that would be the genital stage itself. Now, when you think about these stages, how much do you really put into what he had said here? It seems like you can't put a ton into this. Some of the principles I think are there, and some of the fixation points. But again, why do we need to know this stuff? Mainly because this was his version of how a child would kind of grow up. And when he talks about psychosexual development, this is how a person would go through these fixation points. Now you might be like, how do I remember oral, anal, phallic, latency, and genital? Is there an easy way? One way I've remembered it is through, I can't remember if those are called acrostics or whatever, but old, like old age parrots love grapes. Old age parrots love grapes. I don't know if that'll help you. If it does, awesome. If it doesn't, I understand. But again, this is the focus of his psychosexual development. A lot of times, the people who follow Freud really, really carefully, these individuals would really fixate on all of these things and say this is a big deal in childhood development. We've talked about Erik Erikson stages. That's kind of what this was to them. However, we're eventually going to move on and talk about psychodynamic, and that's kind of the followers of Freud that kind of revamped what he believed. So we got through that. Hopefully it wasn't too awkward for you. It's weird to say all of these things, but nonetheless, it is part of psychology. Hope you guys have a great day.